Have you ever wondered why people with power so often get exactly what they want, even when others know they're being manipulated? Machiavelli once wrote that human beings are driven by desire above all else. But what happens when that very desire becomes the chain that binds us? Part 1. Desire is not just about lust or pleasure. It's broader. It includes sexual attraction, the craving for wealth, the hunger for status, and the yearning for recognition. In The Prince and Discourses on Livy, Machiavelli paints a picture of humanity that is both fascinating and unsettling. People can be swayed, controlled, and even enslaved, not by force, but by their own desires. Think about it. Desire is one of the most natural forces in human life. From the moment we wake up, our daily choices are guided by subtle forms of longing. The desire for comfort, the desire for approval, the desire to feel important. And yet, the same energy that pushes us forward also makes us vulnerable. When we want something too badly, our judgment becomes clouded. We stop asking whether the path we're on is right. We only ask whether it will get us what we crave. This is where control enters the picture. Throughout history, leaders, rulers, even advertisers have known one timeless truth. If you can understand what people want most, you can steer their actions without them even realizing it. Machiavelli was not the only one to notice this, but he expressed it with brutal clarity. Men are easier to manipulate through their passions than through reason. But here's the dilemma. If desire is such a powerful motivator, then it is also the most dangerous trap. When desire blinds us, we no longer see who is pulling the strings. We think we are free, but in reality, we are being guided one temptation at a time. Ask yourself, have you ever wanted something so badly that you ignored the warning signs? Maybe it was a relationship where attraction made you overlook obvious red flags. Maybe it was a business deal where the promise of quick success blinded you to the risks. In those moments, the desire itself becomes the controller. You are not chasing your goal. Your goal is leading you on a leash. And here is where Machiavelli's insight becomes even darker. Rulers who understand this don't need to threaten or punish to maintain control. They simply need to offer enough of a taste of what people already crave: wealth, pleasure, validation. Once the desire takes hold, people will walk into the trap on their own. So the question becomes, is desire our greatest strength or our greatest weakness? Machiavelli believed it was both, because while desire pushes us to achieve, it also makes us easy to deceive. And the truth is, the more we try to suppress or deny it, the more it controls us from the shadows. But what if the real danger is not desire itself, but our blindness to how it's used against us? The answer might change the way you see not only politics and power, but your own everyday decisions. And that's what we'll explore next. Part 2. 1. Desire clouds reason. Machiavelli argued that people rarely act out of pure logic. Instead, they are guided by emotion, fear, and, most of all, desire. Modern psychology agrees. Studies in behavioral economics show that when we strongly want something, our rational brain shuts down. Think of it like this. Desire acts as a fog. When you crave something, it's as though your vision narrows. You only see the object of your longing, not the dangers around it. That's why gamblers keep betting long after they've lost everything. It's why people fall for obvious scams, convinced that this investment, this one chance, will finally make them rich. Have you ever caught yourself saying, "I knew it was too good to be true, but I went for it anyway"? That's not stupidity, it's desire overriding reason. And here's the dangerous part. Leaders, marketers, and manipulators know this. They don't need to argue with your logic. They just need to amplify your desire. A luxury brand doesn't sell you a watch, they sell you the feeling of prestige. A politician doesn't offer policy, they promise a dream you already long for. But if desire blinds us so easily, what happens when someone deliberately weaponizes that blindness? 2. Desire makes us predictable. This is Machiavelli's darker insight. People are not just blinded by desire, they become predictable because of it. And predictability is the foundation of control. Imagine a ruler knows his citizens crave stability more than freedom. All he has to do is create enough fear of chaos, and they will willingly give up their rights in exchange for security. It works the same way on a personal level. If someone knows you crave love, they can withhold affection until you do what they want. If someone knows you long for approval, they can manipulate you with praise and shame. Desire is like a map of your vulnerabilities, and anyone who reads it can steer your behavior. Psychologists call this the wanting system. The brain releases dopamine not when we get what we want, but when we anticipate it. That anticipation makes us restless, willing to take risks, willing to follow. Which means the manipulator doesn't even need to fulfill your desire fully. They just need to dangle the possibility of fulfillment in front of you. Ask yourself, how many times have you chased something? Attention, success, love, only to realize later that it was never actually satisfying? Yet, you kept chasing. That's the trap. And Machiavelli would say, that's how power works. But here's the twist. Sometimes, the most dangerous form of desire is not what others exploit, but what we try to suppress. 3. Repressed desire becomes shadow. Carl Jung once said, what you resist persists. And nowhere is this truer than with desire. Many people believe the best way to avoid being controlled by desire is to repress it, deny it, push it down, pretend it doesn't exist. But psychology shows that repression only makes desire more powerful. Think about the forbidden fruit effect. The more something is off limits, the more tempting it becomes. Children forbidden to eat sweets obsess over candy. Adults told to avoid temptation often crave it even more. Desire doesn't die when it's buried, it grows in the dark. This is where Machiavelli's insight becomes frightening. If leaders, institutions, or even entire cultures can control what desires are suppressed, they can create enormous pressure inside the human psyche. For example, strict social rules about sexuality don't erase sexual desire. They channel it, twist it, make people easier to shame and manipulate. And it's not just about sex. Suppress ambition in a society, and you can control people by granting tiny doses of recognition. Suppress individuality, and you can control people by offering the illusion of uniqueness. The more a desire is repressed, the more explosive it becomes when triggered. But here's the real danger. When we don't acknowledge our own desires, we can't tell the difference between authentic longing and manipulated craving. And that confusion is exactly where control happens. 4. The cycle of control. 1. So far, we've seen 3 truths. 2. Desire clouds reason. 3. Desire makes us predictable. Repressed desire makes us vulnerable. Combine these, and you get a cycle. People chase desires blindly. Others predict and manipulate those desires. When society represses them, they only grow stronger, making people even easier to control. The cycle tightens, and soon, people don't even realize their choices are not their own. Let's bring this into the modern world. Social media platforms thrive on this exact cycle. They show you what you already want, predict your next craving, and then subtly withhold satisfaction to keep you scrolling. Think of the endless feed. Why is it endless? Because it dangles the possibility that the next post will be the one you crave. It's Machiavelli, updated for the digital age. And here's the haunting thought. If our desires can be tracked, predicted, and manipulated by algorithms, then who really controls our lives? Are we choosing freely, or are we being guided by the invisible hand of desire? This is where the conflict reaches its peak. On one hand, desire fuels our creativity, ambition, and relationships. On the other hand, it's the very reason we're so easily controlled. So the question is, can we ever escape this cycle? Or are we doomed to remain prisoners of our own longing? The answer might surprise you. Part 3. Here's the surprising truth. Desire itself is not the problem. In fact, without desire, there would be no progress, no art, no love, no pursuit of knowledge. Desire is what pulls us out of bed in the morning, what fuels our ambitions, what inspires us to create. The danger comes only when we remain blind to it. When we don't understand how our desires shape us, they can be turned into tools of control. But when we become conscious of them, when we can step back and see, this is my longing speaking, we regain power. Carl Jung once suggested that the goal of inner work is not to eliminate the shadow, but to make it conscious. The same is true of desire. To deny it is to be enslaved by it. To acknowledge it is to begin to master it. Think about the last time you were caught in a craving. Maybe it was scrolling endlessly through social media, hoping for one more dopamine hit. Maybe it was in a relationship where you longed for validation from someone who didn't really care. In those moments, the act of simply pausing and naming the desire, I am craving attention right now, or I am chasing approval creates a distance. That distance is freedom, because once you can name it, you can choose. Do I want to act on this? Or am I being led by something external? Machiavelli believed rulers could control people by exploiting their passions. But what he didn't say, what psychology has taught us centuries later, is that self-awareness cuts the strings. A person who understands their own desire is far harder to manipulate. And here's the paradox. The very thing that makes us vulnerable can also make us powerful. Desire, when conscious, becomes a compass. Instead of being a leash that pulls us, it can become a guide we use deliberately. Desire for recognition can drive us to create meaningful work. Desire for intimacy can lead us into deeper, healthier relationships if we're aware of what we seek. Desire for power, when tempered with wisdom, can motivate us to lead and protect rather than exploit. The key is transformation, not suppression. Jung called this integration. Instead of trying to kill the longing, we integrate it into our lives in a conscious way. And this leads us to the final, deeper point. The greatest power is not the ability to control others, but the ability to master oneself. Machiavelli studied rulers who bent nations to their will. But for ordinary people like us, the battlefield is internal. If you can't master your own desires, someone else will. If you can, then no ruler, no manipulator, no algorithm can truly control you. So the lesson is simple, but not easy. Don't deny your desires. Don't blindly obey them either. Instead, watch them, name them, use them. In that moment of awareness, you stop being a puppet and start becoming the author of your own life. So let me leave you with a question. What is the one desire that drives you the most? And are you mastering it? Or is it mastering you? Because in the end, control doesn't begin in politics or advertising or history books. It begins in the private theater of your own mind. And if Machiavelli were alive today, he might whisper the same warning. Be careful what you crave, for in your cravings, you reveal the key to your chains. If this perspective made you reflect, subscribe for more explorations into the hidden forces shaping our lives. And share your thoughts in the comments, because your story might help someone else recognize the invisible strings of their own desire.